that you got into this sport, the UFC sport, over 20 years ago. They probably, in some very strange way, without realizing it, need to be a little maybe thankful to a mobster named Whitey Bulger. Can you? I don't have to say anymore. Obviously, after that, you left Boston. You were living up in Boston, and you moved to Vegas, where you wound up being who you are and creating what you created. Because you did create it. You did come up with the idea and bring it to the Fertitta brothers, and you deserve credit for that. But can you talk about that a little bit, about Whitey Bulger?
Yeah, everybody says it was Whitey. It wasn't him. It was his crew. And
Kevin Weeks?
Yeah, exactly. So, Boston and boxing and everything that happened along the way is all, part of the story and what led me here. And, I wouldn't change any of it. It was all incredible, actually. It's an incredible.
What's interesting about that, Dana, I actually grew up in Somerville and went to Winter Hill High School and knew Howie Winter. He was like my dad's age, so I knew him from being around. And I didn't know a Whitey and his guys, but like growing up there, you knew these people were always around. So to see how the whole story evolved with Whitey and Kevin and that whole crew was crazy. I actually worked at the Billerica House of Corrections with Mickey Ward. I actually told him we were interviewing you today. He says to say hello. He was a guard there at the same time with me, and Dickie Eklund was an inmate there along with my brother when Mickey and I were guards together. It's a crazy story.
Boston is a unique, crazy place, especially in the fucking 80s, man.
Yep.
Boston in the 80s was a very unique place. And, I mean, I lived right in the heart of Southie, and I lived there for years. And I'd never seen those guys. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't, but you know who runs shit in that town. But I'd never seen them until the day they walked into the gym and approached me.
You also knew just from reputation that they weren't clowning around, that they would actually do something. Like it was not a bullshit thing.
You're damn right they do. Yeah, those were dudes and a time and place that you didn't fuck with. You got that Delta plane ticket to Vegas. That's what you did.
Well, that's the story. Can you just elaborate on it just a little bit so the fans, because they hear us talking around it, but a lot of fans out there won't know exactly, what happened and what led you to Vegas and exactly the phone call and the money you owed.
Yeah, so these guys rolled up on me one day at the gym and basically told me that I owed them money. And, I said, it was like $1,500, $2,500, whatever the number was at the time. But you might as well ask me for $25,000. I didn't have it, and they said, "Get it from your fucking girlfriend." They knew I had a girlfriend, so I said, "Yeah, she doesn't have it either." So I just sort of blew it off, and lived my life, was doing my thing, and then, long story short, one day, I got a phone call at my house, and they're basically like, "You owe some money by tomorrow, 1 o'clock." I said, "Or what?" "Are you going to find out?" So I literally hung up the phone.
Hello,
picked it back up.
Delta. You got
exactly what I did. I hung up, picked it back up, and got a one-way flight to Vegas.
The crazy thing is, it wasn't even about the $1,500. If it was $25, it's still, once you give it to them, you're giving all the time. You're hooked.
100%.
For people who don't know, back in the 70s and 80s in Charlestown and South Boston, they had a series of unsolved murders where guys would walk into a bar full of people, shoot someone dead, the cops show up, ask 200 people in the bar, "What happened?" And every single person says they were in the bathroom. And it was like the unsolved murders, like the big highest per capita murder in the country at the time. It was like all Irish gangland slayings where no one would ever say a word out of fear of these people. So when they say that you owe the money, you better run, pay or scram.
And then you knew you couldn't call the police. It was like, it was the unwritten law that you couldn't call the police. And then you end up finding out later that Whitey was in with the FBI and knew anybody that would call the police on him.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty, isn't it funny, Dana, how life, has those twists and turns, how fate can be decided by something like that? Who would have thought that by forcing you to go to Vegas that it would turn your life around and create what it created.
And the timing. Everything in life is about timing. I was eventually going to go back to Vegas, but I definitely wasn't going back to Vegas that soon. And if I didn't go back at the time that I went, none of this shit would have lined up the way that it did. It's